know that we have a great group of people that will help make this a good experience for everyone, including me, I hope. So welcome. My name is Sandra Frericks. I'm with Nebraska 4-H, and I really appreciate you being here today. We have several people on who are going to help facilitate our discussions as we move through the book club. Becky Swanson, Laura Caddy, Lorna Eliason are all our facilitators for our breakout sessions. So I appreciate all three of you agreeing to take on that role. Oh, and I have to do a virtual introduction. Becky and Deb, you are both on here today, and you had a great time chatting with each other during the workshop. So I wanted to reintroduce you to each other.
We really did. Like, we had a blast chatting. So, hey, it's nice to meet you.
This is a little bit more informal, easier to just take yourself off chat and talk. So you can get to know each other a little better. It's always nice when your friends meet and they like each other. So makes me happy. So normally, like I said, we start with a little bit of time for an icebreaker or get together, just the first 5 minutes or so, because it always takes a little bit of time for people to join. And I would love to have somebody volunteer to be the person that facilitates the first few minutes next time. You can talk about the weather if you want to. It doesn't have to be anything more complicated than that, but is there somebody who'd like to take on that role for our November 7th book club? You can also make us do a silly Zoom game if you know how to do that.
Or Sandra, I'll do it.
Okay, thanks, Jen.
Yep.
So I had to jump on a call. I apologize. It was something that was very timely, so I had to jump on that. What is there a question I'm supposed to answer?
Yeah, no. Jeff, you volunteered to do an icebreaker at the November book club.
I did?
No, just kidding.
did.
I took November.
You can have December though, Jeff, if you want to do the icebreaker in December.
Well, I thought you meant I had the October one, and you were waiting for something that wasn't going to work.
So each one we'll start with just a little bit of time to chat and get to know each other, because relationships are really important in a book club, and they're challenging when we're doing it virtually. So I encourage people to use the chat, or if you want to just unmute and speak up, because that's how it's going to be a good experience for everyone. I did put together some slides, but I don't think I'm going to use the slides unless we need to, because I think it's going to be more effective when we can see each other. And since everyone has their camera on, which thank you very much for doing that, I'd rather be able to see each other. We'll get into, so each time I'll start with a little bit of setting the stage for what we're going to be talking about. And then we're going to get into small group discussions. And we're at a point here where I think we're big enough to actually break into 2 different breakout rooms. So when we get to that point today, we're going to use the breakout rooms, and Lorna and Becky will be our facilitators in the 2 different breakout rooms, so that they can help keep the discussion going. And the other thing we're going to do in breakout rooms is each of the sessions has some part of the time that is dedicated to play. And for this session, what I've done is I have found some of the links to the Playworks online game library, and we will give you, each breakout room will get to choose a game to explore a little bit on the game library. And then you're going to come back and tell us a little bit about that game and what it would be like to play it with a group of kids, so that when you leave today, not only will you have the discussion about the book, but you'll have some new games maybe that you can play and be more familiar with the Playworks online game library. There's also a game library in the back of your book that has some games as well. I'm also going to put my contact information in the chat. If there's something that we do during the book club that you don't think works very well in this format, let me know. And you can just tell me now, or you can email me later. Or if you have ideas about how to make this a better experience. As I said, this is the first time that I've done a book club via Zoom. So I'm going to be learning along with you. And it is something that we construct together. So I want your input into that experience.
Sandra, I was curious. So I'm Laura Katie, early literacy specialist in a joint position between NCFF and NDE. Most of you we've met before. I saw you at the conference. I was just curious, Sandra, do you want us to do a little introduction? I have led 2 successful, I would say, well, Deb, you've been in the group, so I hope you would say that. But in the last year, I've done 2 different literacy book clubs with a variety of folks from NDE, NCFF, ESUs. It's kind of just become a nice mix of people. But I think a big thing that I've learned is to take the time to chat at the beginning and to get to know each other. And even if it's just what prompted you to join the club, or where are you from? What are you about? Why are you interested in play? That type of thing. I don't know if we have the time for it, but that has been helpful, just so everyone feels comfortable chatting with each other.
So my question, Laura, and I'm going to defer to you on this, is do we want to do that in the breakout rooms where we're a little bit smaller group, or is this a small enough group that it's worth doing it while we're all together?
I mean, I would say it's worth it, but again, it depends on how much we have to get through. So Becky says yes.
All right.
So
I like knowing who everyone is, and I don't know who anyone is. So
okay.
Yeah, I'm all for meeting people.
That's a great point,
so
Becky. Okay, so Becky, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, fine then. I just remuted. Hi, so I'm Becky Swanson. I'm Sandra's colleague over at 4-H at UNL. I'm also a STEM specialist. So I do, Sandra and I's work overlap a lot, but I tend to focus a little bit more on engineering. So I'm the project lead for Click to Engineering. That's kind of my big project right now. So I recently just sunsetted STEM Cares. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I do. And you wanted me to say why I joined? Was that part of it? I'm going to say it anyway. So I did attend the after school conference, but I attended virtually because I work remotely. I live in Colorado. So it's an interesting side note. So I work remotely for Nebraska. Big fan of that state. But so one of the things that I find myself doing, I was a teacher. I'm going to try to keep this short. Sorry. I was a teacher for 15 years. I was a STEM educator at a children's science center, a children's museum. And so I worked in a space where there was a lot of play happening all the time. And I'm just naturally a very optimistic, cheerful person. And one of the things I don't love about academia, which is where I end up spending a lot of my time these days, once I got my doctorate, is that people are very serious. And I don't love that all the time, because I think you can care about your work and do really important things that can change the world, but also still have fun doing it. And so for me, the idea of like, let's bring more play in has always been something that's been really important in my work with teaching youth science. Like, I think you can love science and still be very, very playful. So I love the idea of sort of focusing on that for a little bit, intersecting the two. Sorry, that was longer than it should have been, but I'm chatty.
The time is going to be well spent. Laura, did you want to say more about in your introduction?
I was also an educator. I was a primary school teacher I was a para first and then a teacher, but I worked in dual language schools. I taught Spanish in first grade, but I've taught kids to read in both languages. And I actually moved abroad and lived worked at an international school in Bogota, Colombia for 4 years. So that I worked at a British school, and they were all about thematic-based learning. There was a lot of play, a lot of I would say collaborative work, critical thinking, all that. And so coming back after that, it's I believe that we can incorporate that into our school system. And I think it just takes a little bit of intention and thinking outside of the box, because we don't often have the time in our classroom these days. But anyway, I am working more with birth to 5 literacy. So it, involves parents and educare, preschool, home visitors, all of that. So I'm kind of shifting to younger, and young kids like to play. So I'm excited about this book. I feel like it really connects to the 2 books that we've read in book club. So thank you for picking a perfect book for our 3rd book.
Kim, why don't you introduce yourself next?
Hi, everybody. I am Kim Larson. I'm with Nebraska Department of Ed with the 21st Century Community Learning Center After School Program, and actively involved in conference planning and the day. So thanks for being here. I'm here to support Sandra, and I'm excited to see people reading the book and wanting to talk about it. My background is I taught primary grades for 12 or more years, and am a firm believer in active learning, giving students choices about what they're doing. I think after school is the perfect place for learning through play and fun, and using the skills they're learning during the school day. So I am here. I have a confession that I've not read the assignment, but Sandra assured me I was welcome anyway. I don't have a book. I gave away 400 of them and didn't pick one up for myself. But I will get my book and I will read for next time, I promise. And I love talking about learning, active learning through play. So thanks, Sandra, for letting me join today.
Lori Slump, why don't you go next?
Okay, I'm Lori Slump, and I work for Miller Public Schools Foundation in their before and after school program, and I've worked there for 34 years, and my role is a director, but I'm also working on a project for this summer. The reason I attended the conference is to get more ideas about incorporating more camp-like programs rather than just all-day daycare for our kids. And I love to read. And when I got this book and I saw there was a book club, I was so excited. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Michaela, why don't you go next?
Hello, I'm Michaela Hicks. I'm with Nebraska Children and Families Foundation. I actually work with kind of medical pathways and infants born affected by prenatal substance use. And Jeff had shared it with NCFF organization, and I was like, I love it. So I like to read and try to provide a lot of resources for women creatively, but then also kind of in that 4th trimester and on. So anything we can do to kind of help support families and literacy for their kids as well, I can wrap into my work. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Jan, can you introduce yourself next?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Jan Handa. I work with Kim at the Department of Ed with the 21st Century Community Learning Center. And in my past life, I was a middle and high school English teacher before coming to the department. But I've worked with grants, competitive grants, for the bulk of my almost 29 years at the department. So my world is very much about federal regulations and compliance and super boring things like that. So to get to read a book about play and just sit here and discuss and think holistically about the role of play in our 21st century programs, how key it is to the hands-on experiential types of experiences we want kids to have. It's just a topic I'm very interested in, but I'm also really interested to hear the feedback from all of you. So looking forward to it.
Thanks. Brenda Clark, can you introduce yourself next?
Hi, my name is Brenda Clark. I am in Omaha, Nebraska. I have just recently started with Kids Can Community Center I am a site director for Druid Hill, which we're still in the process of getting up and running. I love reading. So I was so excited before I even got to the conference that they were going to give us a book because I hang out at bookstores. I don't apologize for it. And then when I am looking for like ideas on what I want to do at Druid Hill, my vision is to really focus on reading, but I want to make it fun because the reason why most people don't like to read is they don't see it as fun. So I want to try to encourage the kids to read, and I'm trying to think of ways to make it fun. So that's why I was excited to attend your class, your workshop, which I really enjoyed on last week at the conference. And then I wanted to read the book and participate in the book club. Hopefully, get some ideas from other people about how can I make reading fun for the kids. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Deb, can you introduce yourself next?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I also have a joint position between NCSF and NDE, and Laura is the literacy part. I'm the numeracy part, so I can make math out of anything. And I think that we lose our play very shortly when we get kids into school and think we have to sit in the desk and do Aki workshops and time tests that just destroy their math abilities or thinking their math abilities are. So I'm just here because I think all of us, even as adults, if you said we get to go out and play and do something fun, then we still want to play at our ages. So anyway, that's why I'm joined as well.
Thank you. Lorna, why don't you go next?
Okay. Good morning. I'm Lorna Elias, and I'm the director of after-school programs here in Chadron. We have 3 programs, kindergarten through 8th grade. This is my 23rd year working with these programs. Prior to that, I spent 15 years working for South Dakota State University and the University of Nebraska Extension. I love to play. I'm super competitive. And I like what I've read so far about play because I see it day in, day out, watching the children, how they don't know how to play and they don't know how to cooperate. I mean, I just see so many things that like, wow. So what I read so far is good about play. I think it's pretty important, as is competitive sports and that sort of thing too. But I really feel like our students don't know how to play anymore. So I like that. I like some of the suggestions so far. And I'm here because Sandra asked me to be a facilitator, which I don't know if I feel equipped to do, but so Laura can just take over for me. Laura can just have my group if she wants to. So if you get in my group, I'm forewarned that I'm a newbie, so we'll see. And I haven't entirely read the whole 38 pages. I read the important stuff, but I do know a lot about play and a lot about games. My problem is I always want to win. So that's hard for me, working with the kids. But what I hate about the kids too is when they don't want to do their best and even try. You know what I mean? So maybe I'll learn from that and how to help them and maybe how to help myself tone it down a little bit. I don't know.
There is a section that talks a little bit about some of those issues a little bit later on in the book. Jeff, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jeff Cole, a network lead for Beyond School Bells. That's a program of Nebraska Children and Families Foundation. And I've kind of been on this tack for play for a couple of years now. I listened to a great podcast. I'll put it in the air with Allison Gopnik. I was glad to see she was referenced in the chapter we read, The Gardener and the Carpenter, which really talks about the value of play for healthy youth development. And I really think the lack of play in our school system is one of the reasons we're utterly failing our children. So I'm a big believer in informal education. My life is devoted to it. So I really feel like the strength of informal education is exactly what young people need today: more play, more social skills development, more imagination. So I'm super excited about the book club and the shared learning that we'll go through for the next several months.
Laura Fritz, can you introduce yourself next?
Hi, all. We have a Laura, Lori, and Lorna. So yeah, I hope we're all in the same group. No, just kidding. So my name is Laura Fritz. I am part of the Monroe Meyer Institute team doing evaluation for some of the after school programs across the state. And I love play as well, hence why we showed up. I really love free play. A lot of my professional experience before I joined Monroe Meyer was in nature-based play. And so I really love that idea of taking kids outside. And one thing I've become really passionate about and seen is that, as we have alluded to, is a lot of adults forget how to play. And if we forget how to play ourselves, it's hard to support those kids to play and figuring out that free style playing outside. So I'm here to learn, and I'm curious, and I'm excited to meet you all over the course of this book club.
Thank you. Alana, can you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm Alana Pearson. I started with Beyond School Bells in August, and I think my title is Community Support and Innovation Specialist. I'm also working with the TMC users across the state and creating a network for that. I was a former project director for Oakland Craig Public Schools before that. And then before that, I worked for Nebraska Children and Families, which is a part of Beyond School Bells. I worked in a different initiative called Connected Youth Initiative. I ran Camp Ketchup, which is a camp for kids in foster care separated from their siblings. And then I did a lot of foster youth advocacy work also. And so as a program director for Oakland Craig, we actually used the Playworks quite a bit. And I was actually able to, sometimes I had to step into program and work with kids, which was probably my favorite thing to do. And we did a lot of these games, so I'm very familiar with it. And I'm one of those people, I'm one of those teachers that loves recess. I know most people do not. Most teachers don't like recess because there's a lot of things that happen at recess, but I love it so much. It was always my favorite part of my day. And so I want to share a story. Just a couple weeks ago, I was up at the school because I'm a teammates mentor. And so I was meeting with my mentee. I was leaving, getting my car, and I noticed that the kindergartners were out playing. They're out at recess playing gaga ball. And I'm like, I'm going to go play with them. And so I jumped in the gaga ball pit and I played gaga ball with the kids and had so much fun. There was one kid that came up to me the next week because I still volunteer at the program once a week. And he said, I remember you played gaga ball with us. And so I think just play is such a great way to build relationships with kids because he remembered me through that. So I'm just excited to be here. I love reading. I think play is super important in the development of kids.
I'm glad you shared that story because it really ties into what we're going to be talking about today. I just have, again, I'm Sandra Frakes. I'm going to take just a minute to share because I can't not share about why I love play. My first real job, I don't know if it was a real job, but it was summer camp staff at a Girl Scout camp. Was the first job that I had to report to taxes. So, and so that was kind of how I got introduced to working. And all through college, I worked with after school programs in Lincoln that were run by Lincoln Game and Parks. They're one of the community partners for some of the programs in Lincoln. And so play was very integrated into what we were doing because we came at it from that Game and Parks perspective. And I did after school programs and summer programs for them for many years. So play is really important to me. When I was looking for an after school program for my own son, we ended up at Belmont Community Center. And part of it was because their staff that they had there were just experts at playing with the kids. And I realized as a parent, that was something my kid was going to need in after school. He has ADHD, and school was very high stress for him. By the end of the day, he needed to relax and he needed to do it with physical movement. And the after school program that really nurtured him was perfect for him. He was there for 6 years and he just loved it the whole time. He hated it too because it was strict and he was expected to behave, but he had a really good experience. Foursquare was king with his after school experiences there. But one of the things they were really good about doing is they made up their own games. And they had this game they played in the park that had something to do with a Nerf ball and the building that the bathrooms were in. And to this day, I have no idea how this game was played, but they played it all the time. And it involved throwing balls over the top of the roof of the bathrooms. And it was just a central part of how, and it continued from year to year because the kids from the previous year would teach the new kids how to play this game, and you could only play it in their little part of the world. It wouldn't work anywhere else. But I loved the way it became part of their culture. And I think that play is really crucial to how we relate to one another. And I think I'm going to just leave that as a lead in into our breakout rooms. Lorna and Becky have the questions to facilitate discussions in the breakout rooms. Don't be nervous, Lorna. This is a chatty group. They will keep you busy. I'm going to see, I think I'm going to give you 16 minutes in the breakout rooms, and I'm going to pull everybody together and introduce the next activity, and then give you the choice in each of your rooms. If you want to keep talking about the book, you can, or if you want to look at the games and report back to us about how one of the games work, you'll have time to do that as well. So I'm going to open breakout rooms, and you should all get an invitation to join a breakout room. Don't leave because we went into breakout rooms.
Sandra?
Yes.
Should we hit join?
Yes. Go ahead and click and join. And Kim, I think you are going to have to choose yourself to join a breakout room because you are host. So if you click on breakout rooms, I think you can still join. Room two is a room that's a little bit smaller. I can't hear you. Is it going to work for you to join a breakout room? Yep, looked like it did. Okay. All right. I think for the next section, I'm going to keep us all in one room because we just have a few minutes to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and have you get started. There are 5 different games that I picked out that, well, one, we could play virtually. So we may come back to these just to play in our Zoom room. But I'd like you to each pick one of these games, and I'm going to make it an individual activity. So you pick one of these, click on the link, and figure out what this game is. And then we'll come back and we're just going to take a couple of minutes to talk about them. We are really short on time for this activity. So put this in for the people who just joined us. Instead of doing this in our small groups, we're going to do this individually. You can pick any one of these games, and you can pick it now. Click on the link and find it in the Playworks game library. Figure out how the game works. You're just going to have a couple of minutes to look at the game, and then you're going to come back and we'll go through, and I'll just invite whoever looked at game 1 to share what they learned. And whoever looked at game 2, and so on. Thanks, Michaela, for joining us today. All right. Is there somebody that can tell us about group count, how that game works?
I felt like I was gonna have to fight Deb on this one. This is a math game. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. You start counting, like as a group, you start counting, and if you mess up, the whole group goes back to 1. And I'll just throw in like a variation that I actually learned when I was taking German in high school, where we were counting in different language. But any 7 or multiples of 7, you said something else. I think it was like oopla or something. It was some other word, but that was really challenging because then you had to like think about the math. So, and I'm sure you could do it with almost any number, but 7 happens to be sort of an unusual one, as far as people knowing what the multiples.
7 multiples of 7 was always the hardest, so that'd be great.
I'm really good at it, by the way. Because of that game, like 7s are actually one of my favorite numbers because of that game. I can also count really high in German.
I think I want to play this as a game for my Cub Scouts. They're kindergarten, first grade, and this would be really good for them.
It's a fun one, yeah.
How about this is my nose?
Okay, I did that one. So I didn't do the counting one because I thought that would be the normal one. So I picked the one about the nose. And so this is kind of interesting. So you get a round group of folks and basically you mislabel. So you walk, so the person's in the middle, then you walk to your circle, but you point to something. So you'll point, say, point to their elbow and say, this is your nose. And then the other person, now they've got to mislabel something, right? So the nose is something else. So you keep mislabeling stuff. And the way, if they get it wrong, then the leader in the middle gets to exchange. So if they mess up, then they become the middle person. But it then keeps going around. And I thought, that could get to go. And they're saying grades 3-5, which is appropriate, or about that age. But I think there'd be lots of giggles and, and everything in between that would just make it very playful. So
this is one I want to play with adults on Zoom. So if we ever have a session where we run out of something to talk about, we're going to play This Is My Nose, because I think it would be so much fun over Zoom.
Or any other time with adults.
Yeah, it would be a fun one with adults.
Yes.
How about, because everybody can adapt it. If you've got people that can't move in certain ways, they could still play this game. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
How about tomato?
Well, I did tomato. It's my favorite it's my favorite fruit, and I have lots of them right now. So I did tomato. Did anybody else do the tomato game? Jeff, you want to say something, Jeff? I'll let you if you want to, but okay. 3rd to 5th graders. I'm going to be with them today. I kind of an icebreaker in a circle. This is interesting. So you have an answerer. They're in the middle. They're the one that answers everything. And they go around the circle and everyone takes a turn asking the answerer an appropriate question, which I don't know, it could get a little dicey. They have to ask the answer an appropriate question. So I don't know. I think I'd have to say it, an appropriate question about something. I don't know. And they have to say tomato. So if they laugh or they giggle or whatever, they lose their spot. So, and you could use another word too, but couldn't you do like, hey, all of them had to be like a garden question, or everything had to be about a game or maybe about math. I don't know. But I thought that would be hard with 3rd to 5th graders asking an appropriate question. So I suppose if it's inappropriate, they're out of here doing math facts in the corner. I don't know. They have to do something awful.
No punishment with math.
Responsibility. You need to go, I don't know. I could see them asking inappropriate questions here. Anybody else see that?
Yeah.
I don't know. That one maybe, but it says quick thinking. So that's those things like, they know ahead of time they have to ask a question and you get to them and they don't have one. Well, guess what? We're moving on. It's supposed to be for quick thinking and rapport. Sorry. Have a question ready to go. Say to
I like given them a topic. I think that would
anything
help.
else, Jeff? What is that what you got from it? Anything else, Jeff?
No, definitely saw the word appropriate in there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're out of time. Is there one more game of the other two that somebody wanted to talk about real quick?
I was just going to say, again, kudos to Playworks, man. This is a great little resource, and thankfully they took play seriously and made this thing readily available. I'm super glad we stumbled upon the book and are having this book club.
My staff at the kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, I played this going on the picnic before. I actually played it a couple weeks ago. They do that a lot when they're done with their homework. They play this game. It took me a while to figure out how they play it. It's like, how is this played? But they play it quite a bit with kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grades. I'm going on a picnic. And so that's an interesting one. You should read up on that one. I finally learned how to play that. It's kind of tricky.
That was the one I picked. And I thought it was really great for memorization, because as you go around, you have to pick an item that starts with the first letter of your name and you say your name, and then you're going on this picnic, and then the next person has to repeat what the person before them said plus what they're going to have, and then you can imagine as you kind of get going. It says ages 3 to 5, but this could be a really fun game, I think, for older kids too.
We actually used this as a name remembering game at Big Red camps this year with high schoolers, except that they said their name and a food, and then everyone had to remember the next person's name and food. So it was like Ida ice cream or whatever, I don't know. I made that one up. Anyway, it was a fun game with high schoolers too. And then they remembered that the entire time and just kept calling each other by their food names.
I've used that version when I introduce adults, because I make them give their regular first name, but they have to have a new last name, and it has to start with the same letter as their first name. So I'm always Deb Digit or Diggit, since I dig math. And so it might be, Sandra Subtraction and Lorna Linear, or, Line or Link. And so everybody remembers. I still to this day see adults in the state office building that I taught back in school, and I can remember their name that way, but I don't know their last name.
Memory tricks.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I want to thank you all for joining today, and I had fun. I hope you did as well. Again, if you didn't, email me, let me know, and we'll try to do better next time. Thank you to Lorna and Becky for helping facilitate the small group discussions. And next time, the theme is inclusion and leadership. We'll meet on November 7th. There's a next section to read. And I'm going to ask you to come to that session with a game that you're ready to share out of the game guide. So you have more time to prep it for next one, but just kind of like we did at the end, but you'll have a little bit more time to introduce us to a new game. And challenge you to play between now and then with the kids or the adults in your life. I mean, one of the reasons that I picked this set of 5 games is I think they're ones that we could play with adults. And so if you can't find kids to play with, if you're just working with staff, you can play one of these games with them too. So have fun and play, and be ready to share a new game with us next time when we meet. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sandra. Have a good day.
Thank you.